an opportunity for this thing to boot up back. And welcome back again to Business and Lifestyle Live. Welcome back again to Business and Lifestyle Live. Welcome back again with my guest, Anthony Francis. Anthony, hey, how's your day? How's it going?
Yeah, well, it's been a good day today. It's been a warm day. Unfortunately, we can't do the things we normally would be doing on a day like today, but that's the situation that we're currently in.
Tell me now, what is it that you normally would do on a day like today?
Well, this is a day when you'd probably be going out, doing a bit of shopping, maybe even because it's such a nice bright afternoon, you may even go and actually tempt yourself and buy something new for that summer holiday. But clearly at the moment, with all the shops being closed, the social distancing, etc., you're having to do things that maybe you hadn't thought of doing.
Yeah, you're right about that, because that's why the government has been saying to people, do not go out and enjoy yourself. Well, do not go to the park. I've seen the police them actually saying, go home. Don't do no skinny dipping or whatever in the Hyde Park. I mean, I looked outside today and it was really beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, you must have seen that. It was really a beautiful time outside there. Now, listen, I don't know what happened earlier. Anthony and I was all set and everything, and I did a little intro. Don't know what happened, but guess what? This is the inaugural show, which is Business and Lifestyle Live. As I said before, when I initially started, I said with COVID-19, people are going through a sort of evolutionary thinking. Whatever is happening, people are working from home and all those sort of things. But one of the things I wanted to talk about today was 5 steps to successful working from home, where Anthony Francis was being a successful project professional for over 20 years. He has managed multi-pound partnership projects both in the UK and abroad. He's a certified transformational coach, and through his business coaching works with individuals, business owners, and entrepreneurs are currently continue to strive for success and want to take action to make that happen. I'm actually reading one of his books here, which is Think It, Plan It, Do It Now. Think It, Plan It, Do It Now. I said to Anthony, the government is actually saying we should not do it. We should think it, plan it. Many people say, so can we do it now? Can we do anything now, Anthony?
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot of things we can do. I mean, this has given us a real opportunity to obviously reflect, to maybe try and do some of the things that we've been putting off for a while in terms of maybe learning new skills, really just sort of doing a cleanup of maybe some of our activities from a social media point of view, in terms of, maybe tidying things up there, maybe some papers that we hadn't been hanging around for a while, just actually sort of just trying to put things in order. So this is a great opportunity really to do things to put you on the right footing for when actually things go back to normal, as they say.
Yeah. Now, the key topic that we are talking about now is steps to successfully working from home. Many persons work from home. You're a businessman, entrepreneur, project leader. You also work from home. I find myself as a solicitor advocate that I have been working from home. This is just one step further. But with what is happening now and people re-evaluating, people are saying that you got to work from home. Tell us now, give us a sort of overview about working from home. And then we go into the different steps. We'll ask some questions here.
Well, I think the main thing when you're working from home is really to avoid that overwhelm and try and be disciplined. I mean, you have to remember what a lot of people are now doing is they're finding themselves in an environment where they perhaps in the past it's very, very alien to them. Their previous routine was I'd get up in the morning, I'd do my normal chores, I'd then go and get the train or the bus. You arrive at the office, you know who you're going to meet and greet. All of that has gone out of the window. So really, you're now having to actually re-establish and find yourself some new patterns of working. And also, you're going to have to make sure that in order to be productive, that you discipline yourself in order to make sure that you can achieve those activities that you want to do.
Yeah. And now working from home is not the same as working at your office, because in your office, you know that the majority of people go to your office, you click in or whatever like that, you go to your desk, you may have a coffee, and hi to your friends and everything, and you know that the computer is there, your boss is across there, so you have to keep cool. You may go onto your social media or whatever like that, but you're working. Then you got your lunch period, and then it's about 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, it's time to go. Working from home now, that's a bit different now, and especially at this time. How does one structure themselves?
Well, I think the key thing here in terms of working from home is that, as you just mentioned there, Sylbourne, your pattern and your routine is now completely different. So in order to actually make sure that you're
Just
productive
want
during,
to say something to you. A quick moment. If you say I go off, I'm not off. And you just keep talking if you're alone on the screen. Okay, Anthony?
okay, yeah, fine.
Yeah, cheers.
So what I was going to say was your routine has now changed. Okay, so whereas before you had a sort of normal routine as you've just outlined, you know what time you get in, you know who you're going to meet, etc., etc. Now that routine has changed, and you're now going to have to structure your day yourself. And so, in order to be productive, you're going to really have to make sure that you know exactly what you're planning to do in the morning, in the afternoon, and late evening, if that's if your evening times goes into that period. So it's important that you do structure your day so you have a clear idea as to what activities you want to do in those periods, i.e. the morning, evening and afternoon or late afternoon, so that, and also that you actually write down what it is, the task that you want to actually achieve, so that you can tick these things off. It's important that you do create that sort of structure. Otherwise, what will tend to happen is you'll end up drifting, and unfortunately, you might find yourself going off on a tangent and not doing the things you actually wanted. So it's really important right from the off that you actually structure your day in terms of the time you're going to work, so you know what you're going to do and when you're going to do it.
Your children are around you. Daddy, 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 working from home. Mommy, daddy, daddy. Can I do this? Can I do that? You know, you're working from home. Um, you know, COVID, not to sit around too long. You want to go outside and stuff like that. Um, Lunchtime. Sometimes people don't. I tell you the honest truth. Sometimes I work from home and I end up don't eating properly because you're now focused a lot on your laptop. I mean, one of the things now is that judges are now working from home remotely as well. So as a result of that, the only difference for me now is that when I go to court now, I don't go to court, but I just stay there and the judges call us. So the structure is still there, but somehow you can find yourself not having that, but just going through, and then you say, I leave this now because I'll come back at it 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the night, or 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, well, that's the reason why it's really important, as well as having a structure, that you also set clear boundaries and also make sure that wherever you say you're going to work from during the day, is you really try and make sure that you stick to that in that particular place. So yes, as you say, whereas now you'd go and sit in your office, or you might be in an open plan environment. Now you're going to be perhaps in the same room as your children or your partner. So I think it's important that you can allocate some time, be it an hour or 45 minutes or whatever it is that works for you in your current situation, so that you really can just focus and get the activities that you want done. And also, it makes it clear to your colleagues sorry, not your colleagues, to your children and to your partner, that actually, while I'm in this particular space, I'm actually now working and I have to get these things done. So it's really important that you dedicate that boundary, and as I said at the beginning, the very first one is that you create that structure when you're going to carry out those activities. So you're right, the normal 9 to 5 is gone for people working from home. So they need to make sure that they set themselves clear times in the day. I'm going to work from 11 till 12, or I'm going to do from 9 till 10:45. Whatever that time is that works for them, they stick to that, so that they have a clear routine and a boundary, so that people know not to interrupt them when they're actually during that space.
And is this what we call like having written milestones, having clear milestones that you do not sort of lose track?
Well, yeah. Well, it's important that right at the start of the day, when you do structure your day, it's important to know exactly what you want to achieve throughout the day. So if you can actually list down maybe 3 or 4 key things that you want to actually achieve during the day, it does one of 3 things. The first one is that it gives you a target to aim for, so you know exactly what you're working to. The second one is that it potentially can also avoid you drifting and doing other things that weren't as important, because we always like doing the easy items first, right? The ones that perhaps don't take us too long. But what that tends to do is it makes us not focus on the key priorities. So it's important that we write down those things that we want to do. We tick them off when we actually achieve them. So A, it gives us a sense of personal satisfaction. Also, it makes us see that we're making progress. So it's really important that we know what it is that we're working towards, and we've written them down, and we can tick them off. as we actually proceed throughout the day.
I tell you what I like to do. You know those books, those what do you call it? Things to do. I it's so. I mean, I do everything on the laptop. Everything is on the computer. But I do find that piece. I'll show it to you. It's right there. I love this. I love this. It's
Right.
so safe. None of my cases is there. No GDPR. but
Right.
but I love that. I mean, I just love it so much because I just have it all written right beside me. I mean, I've got it here. I just got it all over my office. And also what I have in my office is also this. This reminds me that I need to think it, plan it, to do it now. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a plug for Anthony, which we'll talk about later. Think it, plan it, do it now. I love this because you got to think it, you got to plan it, and you got to do it now. So yes, Anthony, I do like that old style religion thing where you just write it down. Right.
Yeah. I think the key thing to remember as well, though, is not to write too many of those things down, because then you end up in a sense of overwhelm. And also, you can also, rather than have the positive aspect of ticking things off when you do them, if your list is too long, you may also then incur a negative feeling for thinking that I haven't actually achieved what I actually set out in the day. So I think it's very important that you prioritize and maybe have 2 or 3 key things that you actually want to achieve, rather than a whole list of 10 items that become quite overwhelming. And actually, you when you look at the list, you think, crikey, I've got too many things to do, and then you get overwhelmed by it, and then you lose motivation to actually see it through.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, that is very crucial, that whenever you set your written milestones and you're targeting, don't sort of overwhelm yourself, because you might feel a bit overwhelmed, and end of the day nothing happens. Now you're at home. Listen, before I came on here, I'll let you know, one of the cars were making this massive alarm out there, and I said, oh shucks, you know what I mean? And RAC had to come. Believe it, RAC came out tonight. But avoiding temptation and chores, how do you do that? Because you're home and you're there, things need washing up or whatever like that. And what do you say about that to persons who are at home now and they're doing the work from home? How do you deal with it?
Yeah, well, I think the key thing to remember with temptations is that we sometimes think, I'll just go and put the washing in. I'll just go and maybe do that with the little one over there. I'll just go and maybe do this or do that. The temptation is here. When you do these little chores, they never actually become little. They end up actually being things that take a lot longer than you had originally anticipated.
Yes.
So rather than that be a 5-minute or a quickly 2-minute activity that you end up doing, actually that could end up being a half an hour or 45-minute activity. Now, being that I said at the beginning, you should actually structure your day. If you've structured it to say, I'm going to work from 9 to 10:45, and you've now taken up 45 minutes of that doing chores or doing little things here or there, guess what? You suddenly you've eaten into your productivity time, and the things that you want to do don't get done. So I would always say, that's the reason why it's important to set that structure.
Yes.
And that milestone list, so that you know exactly what you are working on, to avoid the temptation of drifting and doing other things that will actually end up taking up your time during the day, and they're not the ones that are the most productive for you. Right.
So ladies and gentlemen, avoid temptations, avoid these chores that you think, because guess what? You're working, it's like a 9 to 5 or whatever your schedule is. You got to keep and try to avoid these temptations. Now,
especially social media, which is a major temptation. We always, we're very keen to want to check who's calling us, all that sort of good stuff. So really get into the habit, when you're doing your priority list and you've structured your day, to turn off the mobile, or to turn off the things that potentially will distract you, until you've actually finished the activities that you've set yourself to do.
What about being tempted to watch a movie, like a TV playing in the background in Netflix or so, which the government actually said, all we want you to do is sit and watch Netflix at home. That's your call to duty, call to arms.
Yeah, well, again, this comes back to your structure. This comes back down to your list. This comes back down to setting your boundaries, etc. Of course, when you're at home, it's quite easy. And this is a temptation thing. It's quite easy to suddenly think, I'll go and watch this program, or I'll go and listen to the news again, or I'll go and do whatever it is. This is the reason why you have to be very disciplined when you're working from home. And this is the reason why you need to have that list. and that list needs to be very clear what you're going to do. But also, as I said, you set those boundaries so you know that I'm going to be doing this in this space for now. And then when you leave that working space that you've allocated for yourself, you can then go off, maybe have a treat later on and watch something. But that's the temptation, to avoid those type of things that eat your time up. And actually, at the end of the day, you realize I've actually achieved nothing.
Now, working from home, again, in comparison to the office, and say we bypass this period of COVID, and now people are starting to work from home. In the office, as you know, you've got your colleague there, your mates there, or whatever, like your work colleagues. At home, you're also now in another isolation zone.
Yep.
How do you stay connected with others? Is there a mental health factor there, being isolated?
Well, I think the key thing here is, we're all the sort of people who likes to have one-to-one connections with people. We're used to being in a working environment in an office. Some of us are, the majority of us are. So I think it's very important that if you have a colleague or somebody who you can reach out to during the day, just to sort of say, hi, how are you? How's your day going? It just allows you to have that human contact. Yeah. Because what you don't want to do is to be totally isolated from the outside world, and you don't actually speak to any of your colleagues. So I think it's also important during the day to try and actually factor in those times where you would normally say have a coffee. Use that time to ring up a colleague or friend and just literally sort of say, how are you getting on? And because that way it just makes you also appreciate the fact that you're not alone, and you're all in it together. So it's very important that you do maintain some of those regular sort of habits that you would have done if you were in the office, of maybe reaching out to a colleague or a key colleague or friend who you can maybe have a quick talk to for about 5 or 10 minutes or so. And then at least it gives you that human contact, what's going on with them and their situation. So, build that into your structure of the day, that you do reach out and have calls with people. Otherwise, you'll just feel as if you're there on your own, and it can be a very lonely place working from your home at times.
One of the things that my colleagues do at my office is that there's a WhatsApp group which was created for people can have a conversation and talk, and I'm now deemed to be the resident DJ or dancer for the office, so I provide them with some local hip hop things, and it spices the day. And they all look forward to it in the morning. I just hope my legal colleagues, take me serious when everything is blown over, because they now see me as a rapper. but it does. But what it does, Anthony, it does spice the atmosphere. People feel connected still. They feel like they're part of a team. And I believe that is something I would encourage persons to consider as well. Yeah.
No, I totally agree. I mean, it's important that, if you need to have a break. I mean, just because you're working from home, there is a temptation to feel or to think, I've got to really, be 110%, and, I sit by the laptop, I don't move, etc. The situation has changed now. You're in an environment which is new. You've got your children or your partner, or you've got other things around you. You don't have that, as I mentioned at the beginning. You don't have that environment or space that is normally deemed for working. So you have to create a space, and you have to really sort of, in a sense, change your whole working habit and your routine. And it can be, for some people, it can be a struggle because they're not used to it. And that's the reason why I said right at the front, it's very important to structure your time and to set those milestones as to what you want to achieve, so that you can feel that you're making progress and you're being productive, and not just simply just going through the motions.
Right, that's important. And finally, okay, I'm in my office now, and person sometimes might be in their bed. I don't do that. I can't work in bed or on a laptop or so. Creating your working area, keeping the boundaries separate. What's your advice on that? Should people do it in their bed? Should they get ready? Should they bathe and get ready? You know what I mean? As if they're going to work, or just get about the bed. What's the best advice for that?
Well, I mean, I think, if you've got a normal routine, that at least I would not encourage you to do the whole, have the laptop on the bed, or try and, really be super casual. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that depending on what your environment is at home, that you can't put your laptop in a particular area. But I think it's important to, if you're normally meant to be going to work, so make yourself feel comfortable. Dress accordingly, and at least make you, if you put on a shirt, and if you're normally used to wearing a shirt and tie, put on a casual shirt on. You don't have to put a jacket on, but just actually put yourself in the sort of mind frame that actually now I'm working, right?
Yes.
Psychologically, that also has an impact that actually I'm no longer just wearing my trainers and my joggers. I'm
Yeah.
actually now in a working sort of mindset. It's very important to sort of not to sort of try and separate out the fact that you can, in a sense, take things for granted by being at home, but try and present yourself professionally as well. Because don't forget, when you do that and you project professionally and you look professional, it also has that same thing in terms of how you then feel throughout
Yeah.
the day. So I think it's important to maintain a certain professionalism when you're in that working space and that working mindset.
Yes, I do, because I do find a difference when I sit up, sometimes stand up when I'm conducting a hearing, even on the phone with parties, but remotely now since the whole thing. I do find having that level of presentation, because sometimes how you position your body physically sometimes is how you sometimes project yourself. I think you can highlight on that.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, look, this evening, for example, we're doing this interview. I mean, we're both looking reasonably smart. We haven't got a t-shirt on with a great big sign saying, whatever.
Yeah.
We know that we're projecting ourselves out to other people, and we know
Yes.
that people perhaps are listening to us. So, we have to make sure that we also, from our own personal point of view, that we present ourselves accordingly. And I think it also, just as I said, from a mindset point of view, if you look good and that makes you feel good, you'll then hopefully that'll be projected through the work that you carry on and do throughout the day.
Yeah.
But just in closing, Selborne, it's also important that people do take, as I said, regular breaks, both for their own mental wellness, but also just so that they have a chance to reflect as well. It's important at the end of the day that people do also reflect on what they have done, and acknowledge the fact that they've achieved what they wanted to do, and to give themselves a pat on the back. Because working from home, as I said, is challenging, and it is a new discipline, and people can find it sometimes a little bit of a challenge if they're not used to it.
And you talk about sometimes getting up, because I found myself one time, I think it was 3 hours, literally 3 hours, I believe, sitting down. And then I had to I just felt I need to get outside. I just need to get outside. I just need to walk around the block. And man, that was feeling good. That I believe police drove past twice. And every time they drove past, I went like this. I started to stretch, so they don't think. So hang on, it's not one time he's out twice. But Anthony, listen, I want to thank you so much for that. And I believe keeping it sharp and nippy will be empowering for someone. And tell us about, quickly, Think It, Plan It, Do It Now, the concept about it. I know people can get hold of this book as well, because I find this a very, very powerful, simple but concise book.
Yeah, well, I think the whole principle behind the book is it's in the title. It's Think It, It's Plan It, It's Do It Now. I think sometimes, a lot of people can spend a lot of time sort of thinking to themselves, I want to do something, and they never actually get past go. So the idea of the book was to say, right, okay, well, if you do have an idea and you can think it, okay, this is how you go about doing the thinking stage. Now, once you've actually you've done that, how do you go about doing the planning, right? So there's a whole section in there to do with how you actually go about planning your activity, be it a project, be it an idea you want to bring to fruition, and then how do you actually then take action? Because it's all well and good thinking and planning. Some people actually then don't know how to actually then take the next step and actually do it. So the idea in the book is actually it encourages you and gives you some areas and some pointers as to how you can actually go ahead and do it now. And the idea really is to make sure that you follow through on the things that you set yourself out in the first place. So it's a real, in anyone who wants to try and achieve their goals, that's the whole premise of the book. You actually think, you plan, and you go ahead and do it.
Fantastic. And how can people get hold of this book, Anthony, if they want to get hold of it?
It's available on Amazon, and it's also available as a Kindle download as well. So you can get it both on both platforms on Amazon.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I want to thank you so much for coming on, Anthony, and great. And we'll do this another time, ladies and gentlemen, on the Business and Lifestyle Live. Anthony is my neighbor, and actually a default coach. What I do, I pinch his brain. I grab many things from him a lot, but we support. But the most important thing is that we collaborate, ladies and gentlemen. I support him, support his ventures, and I have no problem in doing that. You know, 'cause you know, at this time now, it's about collaboration, how we can build each other and strengthen each other at this time. And just remember, while you're out there, COVID-19 is not here to stay. It will pass eventually. And Anthony, you said something earlier, and I think we're going to have to do this another time. But when persons make these plans, reevaluate their visions, and start to get going, right, and then the Prime Minister lift the isolation and the quarantine, and we're back to normal, won't the challenge be who continue, or they just give up on the?
Well, I think that's another interview, Selborne. But you're right. I think that, you know, what tends to happen now is people will get into a routine. Will they suddenly say to themselves, you know, I didn't realize I could work from home and use the technology that I've got. I didn't realize I could do X, Y, and Z. And there might be a tendency when this is all over for people to go back into their old habits. Whereas actually right now they may be learning some new, quite productive ones. So I think it's really important that now that we've got the opportunity because of the situation that we're in, to really sort of see how we can improve ourselves and look to really take advantage of the fact that we can either learn new skills so that we don't then go back to maybe some of the habits that we were doing before. So I think that's the challenge when this is all over. You know, will people be able to follow through and maintain doing some of the positive things that they start doing?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's another topic. That's going to be a bigger one. That was just a teaser there. But we've got to follow this through because we're going to go through this whole season on Business and Lifestyle Live. Anthony, John, Mr. Francis, you take care of yourself.
And you?
And as people can see, no coughing around here, no COVID around there. We kick those things to the curb. But we still social distance and we still make sure that we're responsible out there. All right, Anthony?
Excellent. Thanks for your time, Silver. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure. I believe maybe there was a silence there for a while, but nevertheless, we will sort it out.